She's right in there. All right.
She's finding all the spots.
Talking to Chris. Recording? We are live, baby! But we are also on tape. We are deep down in the bowels of Lee's Music. Episode 81 of Kamloops Last Week. Michael Potestio, Christopher Foles, Bennett, Magic Mike, and Bill at the controls. You were late today.
I was late, yeah. Big meeting at work. Just got too much going on here. Way too much going on.
Working 22 hours, like the mayor.
26 hours
hammer
like
time.
The mayor, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's not overtime anymore, it's hammer time.
It's hammer time.
Michael, you're here to talk about council. Before you do, though, cool show today. We have Rachel Stratton. She's a writer and a blogger from the UK. You got an email, right?
Yeah. She's making her way to Alberta. She had some vehicle troubles.
Well, she's a farmer that travels the world taking jobs. She had a job, I think, in Alberta.
Yeah.
She had to come up this way, had a disaster in Vancouver, and apparently Kamloopsians have saved her whole trip.
She wrote to us to say, I need to say this because she thought she was going to be stranded. She thought the worst is going to happen, and a bunch of Kamloopsians restored her faith in humanity, or just reminded her that, hey, in this world of craziness, there's some good people.
Yeah.
And she wanted to reach out to say, not just thank you, but just to let people know, hey, this town, the people she met rose up and helped her, and she was quite amazed by it.
Yeah.
And she can extrapolate as to what she's talking about.
Anything there, Mike? Have you ever farmed before? Been on a farm in your life?
You know that I farm.
Other than your
every
tomatoes?
summer in my backyard garden, and I use the old world knowledge of my grandparents to
the North Kamloops Italian knowledge.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes. We should clarify. North.
I don't know if Jon Keen farmed in Lanigan, Saskatchewan. I know his dad was the mayor, though, and I know he's going to be on our show.
His dad's going to be on the show?
No. Jon Keen will be on this show. His dad was the mayor of Lanigan back in the day. He's going to talk all things Kamloops Blazers. They had a great road trip, 5 of 6, Central Division. Team won 11 straight. They're back home Friday, so we're going to talk to John about what's going on with the Blazers. Kamloops Storm also eliminated. Game 7 loss at home.
Heartbreaking.
You saw some of the video there.
Yeah,
heartbreaking
good
stuff. We're going to deal with that. Also, we're going to kind of check the Storm a little bit because some of their
Marty has an issue with their social media Twitter account.
It's bush league, and they do so many good things.
I called a source last night to ask who runs the Twitter account. I won't say it on the show here, but it's not who we thought it was.
We're going to talk about all the great things the Storm are doing, but also maybe give them a nudge to say enough is enough.
I actually used to run their Twitter account back about 10 years ago.
When it was on MySpace?
When they started. No, it was Twitter. It was about 2013. We called it Stormwatch. It was great.
Was it interesting?
Stormwatch? Isn't that the far-right group in
I hope not.
Yeah, Stormwatch is the far-right group that tried to overthrow many governments.
Well, my page is defunct now, so whoever's in charge of it now.
I think he's a 1930s Italian.
Mussolini. We have Reid Hamer-Jackson on March 15th, Reader's Digest.
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today. Vanni Sartini, the Whitecaps, next week on this very show. But let's talk about Reid and council last night, because you were there last night, and it was an interesting council meeting.
Yeah, it was basically another marathon city council meeting. So the last council meeting that they had was the January 31st, and it was another 5-6 hour long meeting. It's not uncommon for council meetings to go long, but that meeting in particular was ballooned by a rather large portion of public input. It was about a 2 hour long session that kind of expanded it, made it going, and it kind of led to our former colleague Dale Bass putting forward a notice motion to limit people's speaking time, which was common practice under the previous mayor, but it wasn't written down in the bylaws. So her motion was going to basically codify it to say, okay, keep it to 5 minutes so everybody can have a chance to speak, but raise a question and also keep it about city business, which is what the public, when you come up and you speak to something, public inquiry at the council meeting, has to do with the agenda.
You can't just start going off about whatever's on
what's on the
agenda
for
that day.
Right.
Yep.
And then, so we've had about, I think about a 3-week break in regular council meetings with a bunch of budget meetings and committee meetings in between. And we're back to our first regular council meeting since then. And there was yet again another long lineup of people. Dale's motion was going to be up to be voted on. Another cavalcade of people just taking the mic and and was long, waxing eloquent about what they thought was wrong. People, at times, there was some heated exchanges between councillors and the speakers.
Especially Bill Sarai. He was
Sarai.
running hot yesterday.
He went off. In fact, he was the first speaker. Mac something.
Yeah, Mac Gordon.
Yeah, he ran.
He ran for council. He's a former teacher. He's a prolific social media guy who has a lot of ideas for the city.
And I'm not exactly sure what his question was going to be. He eventually got cut off because he didn't get to the point. I think he wanted to address one of the delegations, but he never got around to it. And that was the problem, is that you're supposed to have, and people, even before Dale's motion got to the floor, were saying could just stick to the 5-minute rule.
Brett Minier of Radio NL had this to say. He called it an absolute embarrassment, the meeting, and stuff full of performative, time-wasting crap.
I think Brett's on the mark on that, because there was a lot of people there who were kind of suspiciously just kind of like touting certain things that I know that the mayor has been big on. So you kind of have an eyebrow-raising moment there, like. And one of them, he at one point said, "Whatever you think of this mayor, he's at least trying to do something." So it's like there was. So yeah, like a few people. One guy, he said he owned the subways in town.
Graydon Flanagan.
Flanagan.
He did. He owned all the subways, and he had dealt with them a lot. And he said it's out of control. He sold them last year, and he said his main point was that whatever you're doing is not working. And downtown is of his 9 locations he owned. Downtown was by far the worst. He had the worst. He has some examples of young employees going through hell. And his comments followed Howie Reimer, who again, for like the second or third time, Howie Reimer is the head of the Downtown Kamloops BIA, Business Improvement Association. Howie Reimer came up there and said basically, it's not getting better. One of his clients, one of his businesses' windows was smashed again, and he said that the thrift store, the RIH Auxiliary Thrift Store, run by senior citizen volunteers, is this close to closing because they cannot handle the threats, the violence, the vandalism, just the mayhem down there.
Yeah.
And Graydon Flanagan, who used to be a business owner, who was on the Downtown BIA board for many years, he just reiterated that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, nobody there had a solution. And they were saying, you guys are doing what you're doing, but they're just reminding you that this issue is still out of control, and we need to do something about it. And I think the overriding consensus is no one knows what the hell to do.
And Bill Sarai, he was upset, and they had a recess. What happened there?
Yeah. So what happened with Bill was the very first speaker, which was Matt Gordon. There, he was going on his rant, and to my point about Braden, the subway guy.
Graydon Flanagan.
Graydon is that he went up there and he delivered. He said, "I don't have a question," and he just launched into his speech. And to my point about why this has become an issue is because people are now using that as a soapbox and not to inquire about anything on the agenda
motion,
per se.
Which we can tie in because that was voted on later, right?
Yeah.
But her motion was also, I mean, the intent of her motion, if not the actual wording, the intent of the motion was not only 5 minutes, but ask a question. You're not there to make a speech.
Which many people didn't do, and were there to make a speech.
But also, I think Mr. Hamer-Jackson started like timing people's.
He did after the recess. Yeah. He got very to the point on that. I don't know if it was flippant or not.
He would say their time after they were.
So I don't know if he was being sarcastic or what about the rule, because I know he's not in favor of that. He was on the show saying he wasn't in favor of it. But to Bill's issue, he got really hot under the collar basically after the very first speaker, which was Mac, and basically he started saying like, you need to have a question here, and he started getting, you could tell he was getting really agitated, and that eventually turned to him kind of motioning to the mayor that you have to control this. It's your job to control this and do this.
You're the chair of the meeting. You do your job, Mayor.
It got really.
It's the tension. You could feel the tension at the office when I was listening to it and doing work and other things. And I'm listening to the.
You're in the middle of a 22.
I'm listening to it's deadline. I'm doing. It's like an hour to deadline. I got 5 pages to do. I'm basically doing it all myself.
You're on hammer time.
I'm listening to it. I'm listening to the meeting. Michael's covering it, and I could feel the tension. You know, sometimes when you see something, you're like, you feel embarrassed or cringeworthy for people. I felt that for everybody there because it felt like that, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, he's feeling up on Dalhousie and in the room.
Yeah, I'm feeling it up in Southgate there, and you're downtown. That's right.
So Reid calls a recess. It was one of 3 recesses that we had during this meeting. But he calls a recess, and it was probably a smart move because you could tell that there was that tension there. They go in the back. I don't know if anything was said or if cooler heads prevailed. You couldn't hear any yelling, so either they were quiet or nobody said anything.
They're all ignoring Reid, probably.
And then they came back, and it was a bit more civil, but it was still a lot of people on their soapbox, not inquiring about the agenda items. Katie Newstater at one point was pretty sharp in finding, like, people would start off talking about an agenda item, and then they'd veer off to something else, and she called a point of order at one point, being like trying to get things back on the rails. That's usually probably something that Reid should be doing.
Katie's probably I think she's probably the one who's most versed, who knows more about that kind of stuff, the Robert's Rules of Order, how to run a meeting, because she's done a lot of it. And so she's the one who kind of, in previous meetings, has helped the mayor to say, well, this is what you got to do, this is what you got to do.
Kelly Hall bristled a little bit as well.
Yeah. He was in on that part too, but he really started to kind of let his dissatisfaction be known when Reid's motion for 15, he put in a notice of motion back on the 31st meeting, a notice of motion for 15 outreach workers for the city to basically help social agencies in town fund and get the province to fund them, 15 outreach workers in town. It was kind of vague in terms of exactly how that would happen. And Kelly Hall pretty much called him out on it. He basically kind of just he really skewered the motion for being vague and lacking detail or any sort of real plan. And the biggest thing, and if you talk with people enough at the city that I do, and you read between the lines, you can kind of see where people are kind of showing you how they really feel. Because he mentioned that he said, Mr. Mayor, if you had done any of this work with your colleagues, we might be more comfortable with this motion, which again speaks to that whole rift that we've noticed on council, which appears to be increasingly the mayor separate from
that comment
the rest of the
alone. Kelly Hall's comment alone confirmed for anybody out there who believes anything, or for anyone at City Hall, councillors or staff who say, oh, it's not as bad as you think. That comment alone confirmed that the rift is as real and the gulf is as wide as it's always been. He said, if you bothered to talk to us ahead of time, we wouldn't be in this position with a very weak motion. He was very critical of his motion. In fact, a lot of the councillors admonished the mayor for coming unprepared, bringing a weak-ass motion in there. Yeah. And then the mayor got a little bit ruffled, and he said, well, you're the expert, or you're the veteran, jokingly. And then Kelly says, maybe one day.
Yeah, he said about working together. One day you'll learn that.
Maybe one day you'll learn that. It was very cutting. Very cutting.
Yeah.
On the one last point on the and it was just a mess of a meeting and it went too long. But on that note of long meetings, and that was been a case, I think some of the councillors need to sort of look in the mirror, because many of them spoke repeatedly on the same thing. Mm-hmm. Stephen Karpek was one who said a lot of the same things, or repeated what other people are saying. We've seen that in previous councils, and I thought maybe, well, they want their airtime. Yeah. But if the concern is this meeting is going too long, and everything that needs to be said about an issue such as Reid's motion, then perhaps the councillors should just be quiet. You don't have to chime in and repeat what we've heard 8 times already. Yeah. And this is not just Karpuk, but I noticed that listening, that he would come in and say something, or another councillor would come. O'Reilly said something that it was already repeated. If the issue is long meetings, then say your piece, or if it's already been said, silence.
Just admit it and be like,
just
I agree with my colleagues and move on. I've seen that happen in multiple councils and Kamloops and in Merritt. It just seems to be a thing on councils in general.
I think every council member should listen to what's happening, and if they're going to just repeat what's already said, it's like going to a public hearing and having the same person say the same thing. That could help cut down on the meeting. That's just an aside.
Okay, let's move out of the weeds, the vultures that we are, and focus on some of the positive stuff that came out of the meeting, because there were some developments. Canary Flats, and I think some housing information from the old Duchess, or behind the old Duchess.
Yeah, there was 3 big housing projects that got their third reading and passed public hearings there. The Canary Flats, the Mondo development there on the corner of First and Columbia. I think it was going to add 80 units, 77 units of multi-family housing on that corner, basically going to change the landscape for the skyline there. It's probably the second biggest thing next to what the Fawcett's are building down on Nicola. That passed. A housing agreement with BC Housing behind the old Duchess there. It was interesting, a few years ago there was that controversy before the city bought that old property, but what would become of the Duchess after it basically fell in. I think what was the owners put it up for sale, the old owners, and they were. Yep. And basically, the city bought the property. They bought the Duchess and the property behind it on Campbell, and they've basically, they've come to an agreement, and I've talked with people at BC Housing about this. They've come to an agreement with the city to purchase the lot behind the Duchess and build a multifamily affordable housing unit for seniors and families. It's not going to be like a shelter. It's going to be basically like a rent control type housing, something that's needed in the myriad of housing in North Kamloops. And last night they came to a housing agreement to make sure that it's for seniors and housing, and Ask Wellness is going to run it. And everybody voted in favor of it, even the mayor, who's had issues with Ask Wellness recently.
Okay,
so it was a big...
Came together,
and unanimously passed this thing. The interesting thing is that they haven't even completed the sale yet. So they approved the housing agreement with BC Housing before they've even sold them the property. But that's all.
That was part of the
semantics.
original deal when the city bought the hotel and the land behind it for $7.1 million a few years ago. It was they already talked to BC Housing and says we're going to buy it for $7 million. We're going to sell you this part for I think $3 million behind there, and we're going to sell the front to a developer like ARPA Investments or something.
After they tear down,
theoretically, we're going to spend $7 million and we're going to make more in the future.
And that's you were lobbying for the Duchess just to come back. You missed the Duchess.
Yeah, you loved the Duchess, didn't you?
Some of the content.
That was being slandered on YouTube right now.
That was your nickname back in the summer, Dutch.
Dutch?
Yes.
Oh, Dutchy. Mikey Dutch.
Mikey Dutch.
Oh, Mikey Dutch?
Yeah.
That's not a bad nickname, actually.
And you were with us last weekend. And Mike and Folds and I and you, we were hanging out last weekend. Weren't we, Mike? What were we doing?
Yes, yeah, we had, we always get into a lot of trouble, but one of the things that we noticed is that our pants were getting a little tight. So we thought we would try to go over to the MacArthur Island and start to work out on their outdoor workout gym.
And my pants too, I'm worried about my waistline because on March 7th, across Canada, the Chicken Big Mac from McDonald's is arriving.
What? What is this?
It's a Chicken Big Mac starting March 7th at McDonald's. I might have to go to the Playland location at Aberdeen to work all those Big Macs off. Yeah, Michael still goes, I think.
I don't really remember that very well because I was drinking a lot of Club Cars myself. I was
Berry Crush is the best.
Yeah, there's a lot of great flavors, and I wanted to try them all, but in doing so, I think I had a bit too many, and I don't really remember things.
I remember
too well.
seeing you. You were doing the trying to do the chest press that the seniors do, and you could barely get it up. So that we put you up on those monkey bars to see if you can do a pull up, and you fell right down. But luckily, someone had left
a Sealy mattress.
Right.
From Gord's.
Which is the only appliance and mattress
sleep
store on the North Shore. And if you go there, you get free cookies. But don't eat too many, though. Waistline issues. And
the whole
Big Macs and Big Macs and
the Chicken Big Mac coming up. You got to be careful with that. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on. Mike, you got to go write your story. Your story's not up yet. You got to go write your story, so we'll let you go. Let's meet Rachel Stratton now in Above the Folds. It's brought to you by Club Car Beverages. Welcome to the show, Rachel and Jane.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Okay, who are you? Where are you from? What brought you here?
So I'm on social media as the Global Farm Her, and myself and Jane travel the world farming, getting involved in agriculture, and we ended up in Canada. I think it's almost 2 weeks ago to the day. So yeah, we've been here a short time, but had quite an adventure already.
Yeah, you emailed us out of the blue, and you said you've had the best and the worst of Canada, and some Kamloopsians have kind of saved the day a little bit. Can you expand on it?
Massively. So I arrived in Vancouver, and she was flying out. She spotted the camera, getting the angles.
Looking herself there.
Yeah, so Jane was arriving 2 days after me, so I needed a car, basically, desperately, and I went and bought one and I went to 6 different car lots. I was a bit like, I don't really trust you guys. And
Down in Vancouver, right?
yeah. For example, I didn't know what a Saturn was, but this guy told me it's the most reliable vehicle in Canada.
They don't make them anymore.
Well, I did a big Googling, found out, and thought, we'll skip you. So I got a car, and the guy was like, I sell to foreigners all the time, I'm really trustworthy, it comes with warranty, blah, blah, blah. I fell for all the sales cons. And what you guys call a lemon. Someone said to me on the phone, oh, so you bought a lemon? And I was like, no, I bought a car, not a fruit. That's a cultural thing. Yeah. It ended up, I went north to a ranch, it didn't work out there. So I was heading to Alberta for a carving job, and luckily they're holding the job for me. And I was hoping to make it in one day, but the roads were really icy. So carried on driving on the icy roads, was down to about 40 Ks, and was like, I'll get a motel, it'll be all right for the night. Ended up in this little town called Kamloops. And the next morning, I drove about a K down the road, and my dash just blew up. Yeah. So power steering went, and actually also it's a coil, I believe, in the engine went too. But I went to a local garage, Briar's Automotive, and she's not so comfy on that chair. Good girl, stay there, sit down, sit. Good girl. Good girl. And they diagnosed the problem completely for free. They were absolutely awesome guys, managed to fit me in, everyone else was busy, and said, I'm really sorry, you're going to have to go to Ford. They thought it was a sensor. Ford, this is Dearborn Ford, managed to squeeze me in as well that afternoon and said, should be fixed by the morning if you can hang around. Got a motel, was a bit, this is a bit low on funds. I was looking at about 1,500 quid, which meant I'd be out completely, all my savings gone, because I'd already gone over budget getting this car, which was super safe and from Vancouver. And unfortunately, I went into the office and sat with Kerry, the service manager, who went, sorry, it's actually going to be the steering column, and it's going to be a minimum of $2,500 to fix. And I got a bit upset because I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. Yeah. And Ford don't do payment plans, but hopefully we're going to be able to work something out. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? Where am I going to stay? I don't know anyone here. I've got no money, can't afford motels, food, etc. So I sat down and I Googled the word ranch around Kamloops, and I rang all those numbers. Then I Googled the word farm, and I rang all those numbers. And then horse and etc. And everyone I spoke to, bless them, were saying, well, we don't have any work, but we've got somewhere to stay, or, we haven't, or giving me phone numbers for someone else. And it was actually a ranch 2 hours north of here. They said, you can come, and Ford were going to pay for me to have a driver take me all the way out there. I was like,
this Dearborn Ford.
So.
Friend of the paper.
Yeah.
Friend of Kamloops this week.
Oh, great. Yeah, no, they were awesome. And I just thought, this is taking the piss a bit. So I said, do you know of anyone else? And they gave me the number for this lady called Jill Watts, who lives about 25 minutes out of Kamloops, who answered the phone and went, yeah, I'm just at hot yoga, but I'll come pick you up after. And I skipped around Dearborn Ford. Everyone was cheering for me. I mean, they involved the sales department looking at warranty law for me. They rang the guy 3 different times that I bought the car off in Vancouver, and he was actually really rude and abusive to them. But they sat through it and they were like, well, we're trying to help this girl out. Are you going to help her too? And he was just a nightmare. So they were fantastic. And then they got all the parts department calling round people in Canada trying to help me find a cheaper part so they could help fix my vehicle a bit cheaper. And I thought, right, I've got somewhere to stay. And bless them, Rob, my mechanic, even said to me, well, we've got 2 dogs and a cat, so unfortunately you can't stay with us. And he was loving Jane. But he rang all the neighbours on his street and said, there's a guy across the road, he's got a spare room, you'd be fine to stay there, and made sure that we always had some place to stay. And just like the outpouring of care has been amazing. Miranda at Ford, she's been texting me, making sure that I've got somewhere safe. And then where the story has kind of, where we are currently, because it's still not fixed, I'm staying with this Jill, 25 minutes away, and she owns BC's best raw dog food.
Wow.
So we've been making dog treats, which obviously she's been loving, and I've been helping her out on her small farm with some of her dogs, but she also is a lecturer at TRU for regenerative agriculture. And that's where it becomes really cool, because my best friends in New Zealand are leading with the regenerative agriculture movement. So hopefully we're going to be able to work together, get some of my friends teaching her students, and we've ended up in this wonderful similarity.
And we can thank the crooked dealer in Vancouver, because had he not sold you a lemon, you would have never met the true instructor, and she may never had this teaching from New Zealand. So good on the crooked dealer in Vancouver for setting you guys up.
It's like the best and the worst. I feel like I went through a really negative experience, you could say.
But it's like for a reason almost,
it
right?
Sucked. But I've had so many good things come out of it, you know, and I'm definitely going to stay in touch with Jill and loads of the people I've met in Kamloops. Dearborn Ford, everyone should go and buy a Ford from them because their warranty, they'll look after you better than any other dealer. So I can't speak more highly of them. And even the guys at, I think it's Buyers Automotive, they were so friendly to me. Like, I'm just a little English girl from out of town with my dog. And Kamloopians, I think it's what you call them.
Kamloopsians, but yes, very good.
Yes.
Yeah, no, they've just gone above and beyond.
So
to
what's
help me out.
what URL address? How do they find your blog? What's
It's www.theglobalfarmher.com, and that's my name on socials and things like
This
that.
is your life. I know Jane wants to go, so we'll let you go here. But
That's
this is
all
your
right,
life.
go.
Like you're kind of like a nomad farmer. You travel the world and take jobs, or how does it work?
Yeah, so Canada is our 21st country that we've been to. Jane is from New Zealand. That's where we first set up about 5 years ago, and it was completely unintentional. I studied A-levels to become an orthopedic trauma surgeon and looked around British universities thinking that was the way for me. And I just really had some fantastic work experience, but I just didn't feel like it was right for me. And I started going on a gap year, and I joked to my friends that it's now a bit of a gap life. But dare I say that the best people I believe I've met in farming. And I shear sheep all over in these different countries, which helps. It's a bit of a better wage than just a general farmhand. Jane's earned her keep. I get loads of texts now from people being like, so, we really want Jane to come and work our sheep. They don't know my name, but they just want to see her because she's pretty cool. So yeah, we've traveled all over Europe, and I really wanted to come to Canada just before Corona. Corona happened, Canada shut down. So the last 2.5 years, we've just been doing Europe. And I've been based in Norway now, and I've got a boyfriend there, ended up along the road. And spent last summer working in Italy, along with Germany and Austria.
Wow.
So we've had quite an adventure, but I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have a dog that's as calm as her. Like, she's making friends wherever she goes.
Oh, it's a good dog.
Is happy in a car, on a plane, as long as she's got one of my jumpers in her crate. She's calm.
Nice.
And then she's a class working dog on top, so I'm lucky in that sense.
How many countries have you been to?
She's 21.
Yeah,
21?
This is number 21.
Wow, that's good. That's good.
So, yeah, she's a well-traveled dog. That's another stamp in her passport.
Thanks for bringing her in.
No,
Thanks for coming
thank
in.
you.
That's a good
Yeah.
story. That's a good news that we need sometimes. It's
Yeah,
good.
I think it's because when it first happened, I was gutted, but actually I think my faith's been fully restored and more. And it just shows that the reputation that Canadians have of everyone going, Canadians are lovely and so friendly, and this guy sold me a lemon. I was like, damn, but actually, no, it's more than true, and I've experienced that firsthand in 2 weeks of being here.
Well, I think the guy who sold you the lemon, I think he's an American citizen who's living here now.
Makes sense, of course. So,
Well, hopefully your next car is a peach. Good luck in Alberta.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
We have, this wonderful Whirlpool here. And if you want something in a lower price range, I do have a floor model for sale right here. If you want to have a look inside here, always knock first, just in case there's a salad dressing inside. But
Looking at it just cracks me up.
funny story, I had a gentleman in here yesterday and he brought his blanket in. He was here 3 times. And I finally realized he was an undercover cop.
Steve's dad jokes are undeniably painful, but there is nothing cringeworthy about the service at Gorge.
Jon Keen,
Hi.
Radio 1L,
Yes.
Kamloops Blazers,
Voice of the Blazers.
podcast. Let's start
Two
there.
different things.
How's the podcast going?
It's going good. It's busy. And I appreciate the effort that goes into it on a show like this, because it's a lot of work, editing and everything, and features, and just trying to produce it every week. It's a bit of a burden sometimes, but it's a nice, as you guys would probably attest to, a nice sort of creative output to put some of your resources into.
Some insider stuff from you on that podcast, and that's what we're looking for here.
It's called The Blaze, right?
The Blaze.
The Blaze.
With Jon Keen and friends.
Yes.
Road trip. Great road trip.
Not bad.
Give us your take.
Well, 10 out of 12 points. So no team in the Western Conference had as good as road trip as the Blazers did out there. So overall, pretty good. You always want to win that last game. It makes the trip home and the ensuing week just a little bit better. But they couldn't quite do the complete sweep. Goaltending was the save percentage on the trip was .877. But the fact that they were scoring so many goals, getting 45 shots a night on average, sometimes you don't need the great goaltending when that's the case. And a guy like Olin Zellweger just had a fantastic road trip. Those new acquisitions have fit in really, really well, and they just keep going.
Let's deal with that.
That's the question we're going to ask, is like, when the trade came down a few weeks ago, last month and a bit ago, there was a lot of differing opinions saying, oh my God, because it was a blockbuster. Some people said great trade, some people said you gave up too much. We've had some time to digest it and see it. What's your thoughts?
Well, no doubt it was a ton. That's just the way the market, sort of dictated this year. That said, the Blazers are the only team out of the 60 in the CHL that know they're in the Memorial Cup. The prices this year were driven on a few factors. Winnipeg and Seattle really pushing some prices up. Not knowing the future of the Winnipeg franchise maybe drove things up even further. There was an arms race for sure. And all of a sudden you're looking at exorbitant prices. But I think if there was one thing that if I was the team I would have done different, I would have asked for it in 2 separate trades. So it doesn't look like it's 14 assets going the other way. It's just 2 trades, 7-on-7, and then you look at other teams' deals that they've made.
It would have looked similar.
It would have looked similar, but you have this laundry list of like a Walmart receipt there of draft picks and everything. So.
You love Ryan Hofer.
I'm a big Ryan Hofer guy. Have been for a while.
Just got signed today.
Why?
He did. Because I don't think there's another player in the WHL that does what Ryan Hofer does. Because he can do it all. This is I equate it to this. And did you play Super Mario Brothers when you were growing up?
Absolutely.
My question is, whenever people ask me to describe Ryan Hofer, I say it's like Super Mario when he eats the star, and for 25 seconds he just goes crazy out there, right? Bumps guys off the puck, and he's glowing and everything. That's what he reminds me of. And he's a good guy. He shoots the puck a ton. He had this one-timer goal in where we Swift Current that he just blasted through the net, and he works hard every shift. And I don't think anyone works harder than Ryan.
Does he have a bit of Bowser in him? That meanness in him?
Well, he does if provoked. He's a rural Manitoba guy that you mentioned just signed an NHL deal with Washington, and I think of all the players on the roster right now, and you're thinking Logan Stankoven, Olin Zellweger, Ryan Hofer, these 3 players. Question is, who will play more NHL games? Might be Ryan Hofer when all is said and done.
Seattle. Allen, Prokop, Schaefer, Lambert, Kurchinski, Milic, Gunther, Doc still hurt, but what's it going to take to beat these guys?
Well, a lot. It's going to take a team effort. It's going to take a lot. I mean, that's they've called themselves sort of a super team down there, and rightfully so. I saw some comments where they were talking about how this is no team has ever been put together like this in the WHL. So it'll take a lot. It'll take a lot of will. But really, that's that team assembled. Dylan Gunther coming back from the NHL after you thought it was all over. It's like, here's another guy.
Here's another treat.
Here's another guy. So, but it'll take a lot, and it'll take the best out of the Blazers, and it'll take all the small things we always talk about, special teams.
Obviously, you think the Blazers can do it.
Yes.
What is it going to take? Is there one thing in particular, one key in your mind that has to happen if they can get over that hump?
Well, I don't think it's going to take one thing. It'll take a few breaks along the way. It'll take some, in order to go on a long run in the playoffs, you need a lot of things. You need luck as well. You need some good luck. You need some good fortune. You need to stay healthy.
Injuries,
Yeah, and it's a battle of attrition when you get down to the third round of the playoffs or wherever these teams could meet in the postseason, it's almost who's healthy. And I think that's what Seattle saw last year, is that, you lose a player around maybe, and, they were really making sure that, if they do lose a guy, they just have another guy that steps up right away.
That was Everett's problem last year, right? They had three out, and Vancouver upset them.
Yeah, and even Edmonton, Edmonton had all these stars last year. They lost Dylan Gunther in the league final, and they still had enough depth to overcome that.
Curling.
Curling.
Ice cold takes from Folds. Maybe you want to address perhaps here anything there, or Breyer, anything you want to touch on there?
Well, I'm sad because I missed
you were out of town.
Scotties, and we got in pretty late on the Sunday, about Sunday 11 o'clock at noon, and just couldn't drag myself to the final for that.
It was cool. It was too bad that the snowstorm came in. I was looking forward to having one packed house for the final. It just didn't happen.
Yeah,
but it was a good tournament.
It was. And here's the thing that really gets me about the Scotties, is that Clancy Grandy didn't even need to win the provincial title in order to get a berth into the Scotties. So she beat the local team just out of spite almost, which would have been too bad because Grandy had enough points, curling points.
She could have lost, and we got Brown.
And we could have everybody, and that would have been the cherry on top. So me, that really grinds me a little bit.
That's all the whole thing about
and you can't really have a host team at the Scotties though, right? Because not every city has a team that's
you can't have a host team. You can get rid of the wild card. Get back to
this. Let's talk about this.
Ridiculous.
Matt Dunstone, fifth Brier for him. He's never won. Can he do it this year?
He's got a great team in Manitoba, and I've seen some conversations before where you question the validity of Matt Dunstone.
About the residency.
Yes.
He's playing by the rules.
Yes.
The rules are stupid. Go ahead.
But this year he's representing Manitoba, he's wearing the bison or the three. Is it like Sweden, the three crowns?
I think it's three wheats and the bison or something. Isn't it? Something like that. Yeah.
It's unique, anyways. Sure. Yeah. And he, if you know Matt, he is a Winnipegger through and through.
Yeah.
He's a Winnipegger living in Kamloops right now, and I think it's great for local sports to have another guy like that we can sort of hang our hat on.
Neufeld and Colton Lott both are Manitoba residents.
Yeah,
and Dunstone's the BC import. So
but he's Winnipeg born.
Yes, he was. He is a Winnipegger through and through. So I think this is the perfect fit for him. I'm from Saskatchewan, and I'm like, hey, go Saskatchewan. That's right, go Saskatchewan. But Matt's from, he's from Winnipeg, and that's awful tough because there's a provincial rivalry between those two, as you would know. So, yeah.
CFL pool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We do a CFL. No, you said keep it for this year. I owed you 30. It's that your dues are paid this year.
I'm prepaid, I think.
We do a CFL pool, and people should get in on it. It's a great pool.
It is a lot of fun.
We have
and
14.
Thanks for the hard work that you do to put it together.
14 people. You pick your games every week, and it's hard.
We might have to have a cut on some of the people involved though. Some people get a little whiny.
Well, you see that,
They complain about just random stuff. It's fun. There's no way Hamilton and Ottawa are playing. I normally would have no skin in the game.
No,
but now I do.
That's right, and it's some of the guys, if you tell when they've been in the wine because they'll bitch about the most mundane things.
Yes,
so
I can tell when you get in the wine too, on Twitter.
Yeah, on Twitter. We're going to get into the Storm's Twitter later. Yeah. I'll leave that alone for now. Coaching, though, I want to ask you about inspirational coaches. You've dealt with a lot of coaches in your career. Anybody stands out as far as the most motivational, from a speaking standpoint, coaches you've dealt with?
Boy, there's a lot of coaches, but there's one that was always so engaging. I couldn't wait to talk to him, and I don't know if the feeling is mutual. Probably not. But Kevin Constantine, who a longtime NHL coach, San Jose. Did he coach in Boston? I forget where. I don't know. San Jose for
San Jose comes to my mind, Constantine.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and he always. It's almost like he was almost standoffish to start the interview, But as soon as he got going, it's like. He shared his knowledge, and you always got something you could sink your teeth into afterwards and think that made a lot of sense. One thing he said that I always try to remember when I'm going into matching up teams, or are the Blazers as good as this team, or are they better than this team? He said you always see your own team's weakness and the other team's greatness first. So you always see their greatness and your weakness first. You have to find a way to sort of cancel that off, look through it all, and find out really how the two teams match up.
That is pretty deep, almost like Paddock. His words of wisdom to you. Do you speak English?
That was very deep.
Yeah.
That was very
Golf season coming up here.
Yes.
Junebug season. Your boat coming up here too. Looking forward to it. KGCC guy.
Yeah.
I am. Do a little River Shore this year too. Yeah, but KGCC is.
Oh, that's probably through the podcast.
Yeah, there's some great people over there too. But we always have great battles at KGCC.
Yeah,
we always
do.
get it at some point in the summer. We're probably not talking to each other for a week or 2 weeks because something shook down.
Something happened on the
Somebody
links.
over celebrated on some green, ran through someone's putting line.
There'll be something in the playoffs too where we're at each other at some point for some work.
Or one of the wives will have a text message and it'll just throw everybody off. But, it's a lot of fun. And the funny thing is, speaking of golf season, I was just speaking to the folks at Rivershore there, and the latest they've ever opened is March 18th. Yeah. And there's just no way, if you look outside, that they're going to. So this might be one of the latest starting
years.
Golf seasons.
Whereas last year it was one of the earliest.
Yeah, big time.
Travis Olson's probably slaving away out there at the KGCC right now. Well, I guess can you really do anything right now? I don't know.
It's still snow covered.
Frozen.
There's still snow, and the temperatures have to get. The overnight temps have to be above zero to make ground, and they're
that
still
ain't happening yet. No.
Yeah. Big time.
Got to go to the Willows, have some nachos, some pints.
See our
KGCC.
two favorite hosts out there too.
Oh, Karina.
And
Verdita.
Verdita, yeah.
I love Verdita.
Shout out.
And Karina.
Yeah, shout out.
Okay, thanks for coming.
We're so up to date.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Okay.
LED shot.
LED shot this at Game 7, and he called it appropriately the agony of defeat.
LED is Alan Douglas. He's a fantastic photographer for Kamloops This Week and many other organizations. He does events all over the city. He's everywhere, and he catches shots like this. And this was a tough moment for the Kamloops Storm. It was Game 7 on home ice. They wanted to have a big win. It was a huge crowd, 1,000 people there. They're their biggest gate of the season, and they fell short. It was tough for them. I wanted to start with their head coach. A couple of really good interviews that I wanted to play. Some inspirational stuff from both the head coach, who's Jan Ludwig. You know Jan Ludwig.
Yeah, former NHLer. Yeah, absolutely.
He took over the team on short notice before the season. Jeff Grimwood left right before the season. They called in Jan Ludwig, and slow start. He's a longtime pro scout. His son is
in the minors.
His
daughter plays.
Katie was a fantastic volleyball player for the Wolfpack. Yep. But he had never coached before, so it was a learning experience. The team didn't start well. They were, I think, 4th in their division at one point. And he took it on himself. He said, "It's on me. I got to do better." Matt Cole, kind of in a roundabout way, the GM called him out. They turned it around, and they had a really great season. And you could tell that he really felt for his players in this interview right here after the loss on Monday night.
I just told the boys, hockey can be cruel. One day we're celebrating and super happy, and next day we're crushed and crying. But I told them it's such a beautiful game, and it's like a reflection of life, except sometimes even more dramatic and more up and down. And I told them I wouldn't want to compete against them in anything in life because they have a whole different set of gears in their transmission, and when they trip over something they enjoy, I think they can apply all of this stuff, good and bad, and all the beautiful and hard. But it's a great game, Canadian game, and I'm proud of them. We never quit. We're in it right to the end. The puck's bouncing on the goal line, but that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, wise words, measured and smart, and he wasn't too high or too low, and he's been there. In fact, in his as a New Jersey Devil, I think his team came back from a 3-1 deficit to beat Philly, so he knows what it's like to be there, and he knows what his players are going through. I think the biggest thing there is he's saying that, in a roundabout way, he's saying they'll learn from this. This is actually good for them because as they go forward, like he says, they'll step over the obstacles, and this is one of them. Any inspirational coaches that you remember from your sports life that stand out? Tortorella. Torts is the best, man. When I was a kid growing up in Abbotsford, and we used to go to the BC Junior Hockey League games, and the Abbotsford Flyers, legendary team there, they went to the Centennial Cup final in 1983 against the North York Rangers. They had a coach named Doug Sauter, and he went on to coach a lot in the AHL, CHL, Oklahoma City. He had a big handlebar mustache, looks like Sam Elliott. And he used to, after the game, we'd go into the dressing room as kids and everything, and he'd let us in there and give us Cokes, and he'd talk to the team. And he would be really low-key, but, with this big mustache, cowboy boots on. But you could tell that the players revered him. And he wouldn't say much, but he spoke more with the less he said.
Yeah. Jan Ludwig is likely, I think, going to be back. I texted Matt Cole, the GM of the Storm. He said we'd like to have him back, and Jan's indicated that he wants to come back. So that's great for the Storm.
Yeah.
They will not have their 20-year-old captain, Harrison Ewart, back. You kind of forget that for a lot of these guys, it's the end of the line of their competitive hockey careers. They're 20 years old. They're not going on to play maybe university. They're not going on to play pro. So this is the end of their athletic, competitive life.
Yeah.
And you can tell that it meant a lot to Harrison Ewart, and it was a sad moment for him on Monday night.
What stings the most about this one, Harrison?
I mean, it's my last year of hockey. I mean, I love it. Oh, I love everyone in that dressing room so much. They all battle their hearts out all year. I've been here for so long, and I can't thank the coaches and Matt and Pete and all the trainers and everyone that's helped me over the years. I mean, this program has meant the world to me, and I just love everyone in that room. And I couldn't be happier with the effort they put in.
It's just raw emotion, right? Like you just said, like this is, to us looking at it, it's a junior B league, and the kids are playing, and it might not be that important, but this is their world.
Yeah.
Like you say, this is as far as the tier coming down, just tells it all.
Yeah, there were so many good things about the Storm this year. They had their first responders night. They had their Angels Animal Rescue
Wiener Dog Night,
fundraiser.
very
They're
popular.
all over the community.
Yep.
They're helping players get to junior A and post-secondary. So there's so many good things, but we do want to focus on something that needs to get better for the Kamloops Storm. And this has been going on for years, since it jumped ownership groups, even when Barry Dewar was in control. These tweets.
You don't like the tweets, eh?
I don't like the tweets.
Marty doesn't like the
they're
tweets.
entertaining.
Yeah.
They're you chuckle at them, but I think they are essentially shameful for the organization.
Shameful.
They're representing, and hey, we can't cast stones. You and I have had some tweets, late night especially you.
I stand by every tweet I've ever tweeted.
Red wine. But we're not representing a group of young men. And I think if you want to get rid of this whole kind of jungle bee tag, and I'm not saying that that's what this Storm are, they do so many good things, but this element of it is still kind
the
of
old
jungle bee, and they
yeah.
need to get rid of it. Okay, so this is 11:44 p.m., the night of their Game 7 loss. Let's see the tweet. The better team won tonight. They whined and complained, but they won. The game determined the winner. That's what counts. A win, 2-1. Congratulations, St. Moose Eagles. Note the time, 11:44.
Well, there's two things about this that really bother me more than the context. They need a comma here, and they need a comma after congratulations. Other than that, I'm fine with the tweet.
There's a lot of run-on sentences. No, you can't be fine with that tweet, because it's like a juvenile thing. They're trying to take it on the chin and be like, the better team won. But
one of the responses tonight to this tweet said, "We get the sentiment, but you should have ended it here and then started out here again."
And I'm glad you brought up those responses, because let's see the next tweet. Brad Karp. Who's doing the whining now? Joe Capriglione. It's too bad you don't like the spelling of two there, Folds, either.
No, it's too bad stuff like that is said and the league doesn't step in and deal with it. I thought the league came out dealing with teams when they say things about the league. How about other teams need a question mark?
Okay, respectfully, and then we got Blake Milton coming in. Respectfully, maybe next time, stop at the better team.
That's the one I was mentioning, yep.
If we can go up a little bit, please.
Wow.
Just a simple wow from Mike Rigby. Connor Harding, still just the worst organization in the league, I see. Where's the class, Kamloops? Yeah, this seems a bit bitter, perhaps even whiny. Wow, I think a lesson in losing gracefully is needed here. Shameful to post this verbal vomit much. I think there's one more down below here, if we can scroll down. This one's pretty hard, from Tonio Hash. Shame on you. This is disgusting to post on behalf of the team. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. To all the young men who played, great job to all. I hope you're classier than whoever runs your Twitter.
Yes.
What else do you have to say? I mean, that's what you're putting out there for your organization.
And that's up to Matt Cole and the powers that be at the Kamloops Storm organization to take control of.
Do you think Jan Ludwig would like to see that? He has, I'm sure, nothing to do with that. He would be.
This is the antithesis
cringing.
of what Jan would seem to be as a man to me.
Okay, one more tweet on this matter. And they're quote tweeting themselves. In my opinion, they're just getting down in the weeds with the Storm.
Not as bad, though, because if you notice this, Summerland got defeated by the best team in the league this year, Princeton Posse. They're the number one team in the entire KIJHL. Summerland got swept. Summerland, though, when they lost, here's what they said. And it was a classy out. So they're just helping.
It's a light jab, okay? It's not too bad.
They're helping their brethren to say, look, you need some education. Here's your sensitivity training.
Yeah, it's definitely not that bad. I think if you want to be real classy, you know what you do? You say nothing. Or you contact them by a text. You say, hey, look, Matt Cole, this is Bush League.
I agree. But on the other hand, no publicity is bad publicity. And this league is fighting for fighting for attention with everything else. So I bet you, even though this looks looks hokey, and the tweet from the I think we can agree from the Storm wasn't good.
No, bush.
Look at all the conversations it's generating, and sometimes that's all people care about in this age of social media, attention spans, and no class.
And like I said, this dates back, so let's see the next slide, please. And this goes way back, and a lot of tweets have been deleted. I couldn't find them, but here's some that I could find. So this is 2017.
Yep.
Kamloops Storm 3-0 Heat goalie wants that back. That's not that bad. Kamloops Storm, on a separate note, Fernie, either pay your commentators or get new people. Fans don't pay to listen to them complain about not being paid for 3 periods. This one's funny because this is the Chase Heat. So after Kamloops Storm run the goalie and get no penalty, they score 4 goals. The Storm retweeted that.
Yeah. They're proud of it.
This one's a bit disturbing, right? I mean, it's better to say nothing.
Unfortunate end to a game in Invermere tonight. 1-1 tie, 1 minute remaining in regulation, and we have an ammonia alarm. Everyone is safe and well. Storm players claiming they were just about to score when the game was halted. We'll never know. Yeah, that's
so
weird.
People are could potentially die in this ammonia league.
They have died.
And they have died in ammonia, and then they unleashed that.
Yeah, that was really bad.
And here's a sentence you're not going to like to run on here.
Ref bad call, 2 in a row, and 3-2 Chase lead, 3:40 to go in third. Credit to Moore.
And this dates back, okay, this is not the current regime, but it has jumped regimes. It's still going on. This is the kind of stuff that the league doesn't need. There's an account called KIJHL Sniper that picks these things up. And
maybe we should find out whether or not the KIJHL has a social media policy.
I'm sure they do. I don't want to get anybody suspended or in trouble. I just think it was a good time to be, okay, let's get somebody on the social media with some class and some grammatical abilities.
And maybe even if you want to go that road, be clever. Be witty.
Right, that happens now. Teams are always taking little jabs, friendly jabs.
But it's the way you do it. You have to have a little bit of intelligence and wit, and so far there was none there.
And like I said, the good with the Storm vastly outweighs the bad. They've had a great season.
Good year.
They've done so many things for charity. Just need to point this one thing out. Let's wrap the show. We got Vanni Sartini next week.
He is. Who is he? For the people who don't know.
Head coach, and he's a bubbly Italian.
Good interview.
Great interview. His team lost their first game. We'll see how he feels about the season. I think his contract is coming to an end. Is he confident the team's going to turn around? Can he continue on coaching the team and get to the playoffs this year? They have to make the playoffs this season.
You would hope so, because it's been very, very disappointing run for the team.
Reader's Digest, March 15th. We'll have
2 weeks from today. We'll ask Reid Hamer-Jackson about all things at City Hall and see if he brings in his stopwatch.
Mike, we've barely heard from you today. I don't even know if we've heard from you at all.
A little bit, it's been a sports-heavy show, so
Big news for you.
Big
distribution.
News for us. Yeah, we've landed a U.S. distributor as of this morning, so that's
for the Riversong guitar line.
Riversong Guitars, that's huge news. The U.S. is a difficult market to serve from Canada because we have an international border, but this company is super excited, and there's a lot of other parallels that's going to happen alongside of this. So very good news for Riversong Guitars.
From an economics note, does a falling Canadian dollar help you? It does if you're exporting the guitars, correct?
It makes it easier for the distributor in the United States, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay, final thoughts from you?
Good show. I'd like to see Keener. He's probably the best play-by-play announcer in the Western Hockey League, if not in all of Major Junior. I haven't heard many from back east, but I've heard some other ones, Vancouver and the Prairies.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I hit the wrong button, and you'll like that in the thing. So carry on, guys. You're doing a great job.
Was the camera on you the whole time?
Anyway, yeah, Keener's good. I like the dog. I like the Rachel. She was a breath of fresh air, and it's good to have a little bit of just positivity because you're so negative all the time. It's nice to have some positivity coming into the show.
Yeah, Dearborn 4 got a lot of love today. We're talking of Volkswagen today, so you might have a sponsor next week for the Magic Mirror, brought to you by Volkswagen.
Well, we'll see how that.
We do like McDonald's, though, and the Big Mac's coming on March 7th. Thank you to Club Car Beverages and to Gord's Appliance and Mattress Center. For Chris, for Bennett, for Mike, for Bill, I'm Marty. We'll see you last week.